then you see these bands of very distinct cloud cover moving into the region. That is not rain, that is not snow. Believe it or not, military aircraft flying through the region is dropping chaff. Small bits of aluminum, sometimes it's made of plastic or even metallicized paper products, but it's used as an anti-radar. Now, they won't confirm that, but I was in the Marine Corps for many years, and I'll tell you right now, that's what it is.
Look out for Charlie.
I have talked about sound a lot since I started this channel. I've shown you recording after recording, sound waves traveling through areas, businesses, homes, over the years, anywhere and everywhere. If you haven't seen these, visit the newest section of my channel, the SWAT Rat section, and you can learn everything that you need to know about it. So let's talk a little bit about sound and sound waves. A wine glass can shatter from sound. One note. A lot of people know this. It's not hidden. One note or frequency can do this. So if the glass is the right size and thickness, etc., if the wine glass resonates at, let's say, 70 hertz, I'm completely making this frequency up randomly, and you play 70 hertz loud enough, that glass will break. It will shatter, begin to resonate, and it will shatter. Like that. So imagine a low sound, an ELF sound that the human ear can't normally hear, traveling through the air. You can have that sound that cannot be perceived. You can have that up to 120 decibels, and people won't even know it's there. They may feel it, but they don't know it's there. However, if you have an audible sound that is at a low level traveling through an area, and you dropped something like a band shell in front of it, you could suddenly begin to perceive that sound. Everybody could, where before maybe 2 or 3% of the population could. So here is a band shell, and then if this sound was in the area, being projected through the area, it would be amplified here, and those people in front of this band shell would suddenly be able to hear it. Okay, this is very, very important, because when a sound is continuously traveling through large areas like cities or neighborhoods, you're going to have small areas where the sound is louder than it is just 20 feet away. You can experience this in your home on a daily basis if you pay attention. There may be a high frequency from an appliance that you can hear when standing in your hallway outside your bathroom. But as soon as you turn your head or move, you may not be able to hear it anymore. There can be an area inside a home or a building where you can really hear low frequency reverberating, like the corner of a room. But when you move a very short distance, those frequencies drop in decibels to the point where you can barely hear it. Or you might not be able to hear it at all. This happens naturally. And this is what I refer to as band shell syndrome. This is when sound becomes amplified by the immediate surroundings, whether that be walls, furniture, appliances, whatever, that's creating that accidental band shell, right? For example, there was an area of my home where just in the hallway outside the bathroom, mainly at night, I was hearing like a modem sound. And it really did. It sounded like an old baud rate, really low baud rate modem going on and on and on all night long. But as soon as you turned your head or moved, you couldn't hear it anymore. It was just in that area. Let me show you that real quick. Now, after years of hearing this, I was finally able to get the microphone just right. Like, it had to be to the millimeter, just like your ear and your head, and you could pick it up. It was very, very directional sound. So here it is, recorded and then boosted up so that it was very audible. Now, I was hearing this and nobody else could hear it, except for one person. And then finally I was able to record it and then bring it up to the volume where everybody could hear it. Here is the interesting part where it gets louder. But yeah, my ear and my head, my positioning had to be at an exact perfect spot. Like when I was coming out of the laundry room and my head was tilted a certain way, my ear would pick it up and I could stop and then back up a little bit, and I could totally hear it. And then once I moved, it was gone. This is a great example of this. Let me give you another example. Let's say an old washing machine that reverberates when you tap on it. Let's say that it reverberates the note D. And let's say that an ELF D note is being droned in the area. You may catch that washing machine lightly vibrating and droning, and it isn't on or even plugged in, and it is simply vibrating to that ELF note. That is totally possible, and it totally happens. It just depends on the positioning, the room, all accidental circumstances that can create a bandshell syndrome. During the day, there is a plethora of ambient noise in most urban and suburban areas. We have cars, people, lawnmowers, weed whackers, planes, sirens, you name it. This is why most of the strange and even nefarious sounding things that average people hear is at night. So let me give you another example, and I'll use one that you have probably heard of 1,000 times. So a woman or a man is in bed. It's after midnight. Then suddenly, while lying there, they hear people talking. This is almost always very quiet, and it sounds like it is coming from the basement or downstairs or the driveway or outside their window. And in every case, when they get up to check it out, they can no longer hear the talking or whispering. Or it sounds like that talking or whispering has moved to another place. This is a great example of bandshell syndrome. There may be a frequency-friendly hallway outside the bedroom, or the unintentionally perfect setup of a house and garage outside, or two houses, with that space in between each other, making the sound amplify. This is bandshell syndrome, and I have received hundreds and hundreds of emails from people over the years who have experienced just this. There was a guy who used to hear things outside his house all the time, and finally he gave up on looking, which is kind of dangerous because it's like, what happens when that sound is really somebody there and you don't get up, It's very tricky. You generally can't hear real ELF, let's say 14, 24, or like 30 hertz. So you could be in proximity of this really extremely loud ELF and not hear it. However, you may be able to feel those vibrations, feel the pressure changes, hear the harmonics, or have other symptoms which are alerting you to its presence. And that is a lot of these symptoms in these cases. Now, there are objects which have been made to resonate at a particular frequency. Let's say the note C, which has octaves. Let's say the note C, 523.25 hertz, or the ELF version, which is an octave of that, and that is 16.35 hertz. Let's take a triangle, for example. The shape, size, and material of that triangle make it resonate to the note C, for example. Now, every single production of that same triangle vibrates at the same frequency. When they make it the same size, the same shape, out of the same material, it's going to resonate the same frequency every time. They can produce them in a factory to produce the same note every time. And that's really important despite the simplicity of the idea, because this can be pre-planned for any object. Now, let's talk about a pre-planned object that is a little more nefarious. Let's take metals, for example, like tiny flakes of nano-aluminum or something similar. They are all made using production techniques, ensuring that they are all virtually the same. So, just like a triangle, they are going to vibrate to a predetermined frequency. Now, let's say that frequency is 450 hertz. I'm totally making that up. A vibration can light them up anywhere. And I mean that metaphorically, turning them into a speaker. So let's say that you have all these particles in front of you, right? You can't see them. They're nano. They're all in front of you like a dust. That area can be turned into a speaker. And no one would have any idea where the sound was actually originating from. Originating is the key word. If you bounced or send frequencies in from a tower, long distance, you can turn any area into a speaker. Like above a mountainside or a field, for example, and no one would have any idea that that sound was really originating from somewhere else, from long distance, far away, right? Once you stop producing that particular resonance, the constant signal carries on underneath, unheard by most, and no one is any wiser. This is how and why a percentage of the population has tinnitus. This is why a percentage of the population can hear the hum. This is why a percentage of the population hear other sounds that I won't even get into, because these waves are constantly being broadcast everywhere. And when desired, literally anywhere can be turned into a speaker, because these particles can be used as a speaker to amplify the sound well above the ambient noise level that it is normally sitting at. You can push any sound you want through an area. This could be a crowd of people yelling, a group of troops walking, screams and cries, a helicopter, or even gunshots. You name it, you can send it. And it will immediately work on you and others. These particles are not totally necessary, but you can use them to amplify and really hone in on an area. It will fool people. It will seem really realistic to somebody while they are in a panic. Let's take these strange sounds heard around the world, for example. Why do you think the strange sounds heard around the world have been just odd sounds and not distinct sounds? Why wouldn't they use gunshots or rocket fire? Because the techs who are testing, tuning, and operating this don't want to clue you in to what is actually going on. And they rely on superstition, UFOs, and the paranormal to cover these tests and operations. These are all man-made sounds, all of them. The area here was turned into a speaker. So I want to show you something that I found on these strange sounds while I was listening to them. I was listening to a 12 or 15 minute compilation of these sounds from all over. I heard this one that I've heard many times out in the woods, right? And then next was this one. This was Kiev. Same type of sound. And you can hear background noises as well. Even those. Now, there's something very, very important in both of those recordings. I'm going to show you that real quick. Both Canada and Kiev have the same voice in them that I've shown before, saying the same exact thing, in the same exact tone, in the same exact inflection. It was in the background of the noise. It's a female voice. This is the voice in Kiev. Now you heard that. It says, it sounds like something something alive. Alive. And then it sounds like a warped female voice saying, "This is evil." Well, whatever it says, it doesn't matter. Let's go to Canada. Here is Canada. This same voice saying the same thing as the first one. Same exact thing. That's Canada. This is Kiev. Here's Canada. This is Kiev. Now let's go to the first thing it said. This is Canada. This is Kiev. That was Canada. This is Kiev. The same exact thing, saying the same exact things. Proof positive. So there you go. It's not aliens. It's not whatever. There are human voices behind it saying very human things. Moving on, since we proved that, some of you may have noticed over the years that radio comes in better at night than it does in the day. You may have noticed that wireless or Wi-Fi signals are the same. They are stronger at night than they are in the daytime. And why is this? It's because the sun and UV breaks down these radio waves. So not only does what they refer to as geoengineering turn the entire sky conductive and into a virtual speaker that can be ramped up at any given time at any chosen place, it also blocks the sun that breaks down these radio and electromagnetic waves, which also helps with fungal growth because you're blocking the sun. I could go on and on. There are multiple uses for putting this stuff in the air. It is not just geoengineering. It just isn't. But to clarify, are persistent contrails necessary for band shell syndrome and other events? No. But it helps make the entire sky conductive. And it helps turn any particular area into a speaker or conductor. Have there been any events in recent years where people heard something but couldn't see it or see anybody doing it? Have there been events where people heard gunshots but couldn't see the people doing it? Absolutely, yes. And in this particular case, gunshots were heard by people, and all those shots were very close by. All up and down a mile-long strip, indicating multiple people needing to be there to pull off something like that, right? But in the end, no one saw anyone actually firing. And then one man was blamed for the entire event. These are things that you need to think about. What did military contractor Woody Norris say about his own lower-level tech invention?
So again, this idea of being able to put sound anywhere you want to is really starting to catch on. We've got the military had just deployed some of these into Iraq where you can put fake troop movements a quarter of a mile away on a hillside. Or you can whisper in the ear of a supposed terrorist some biblical verse. I'm serious.
That's right. So I talk about this technology and these sound waves all the time. And on my last video about the mental health operation, someone came to my channel and left a comment, so you're saying that there's no such thing as crazy people? This is why I'm pretty much done reading comments, man. I have told people for years how this affects people. You can't get it in 5 minutes, and if you don't have time to learn, I don't have the time to read your dribblings. Most of these people are paid posters or fake as fuck, but you know what I mean. Trying to imply that I'm not saying that mental issues don't exist is retarded. And why is it retarded? Because I'm telling people that these issues are coming from external factors, and many of them are intentionally being driven into what people believe is mental illness, but the mind isn't quote-unquote ill. You are, for believing in such nonsense. Your brain has been made smooth by a steady wave of bullshit. These statements made by these fuckos make absolutely no sense. If I came out and I say that autoimmune disorders are being caused by RF, ELF, and EF, which I have, I'm not saying that autoimmune disorders don't exist. I'm saying that these symptoms are being caused by something that the average person doesn't understand, and they are being lied to about all of it. And it's the same thing with behavioral symptoms. I don't have time to give you the info and also attempt to upgrade your operating system. If you want to run on Windows 98 for the rest of your life, that's your problem. If you want to believe that your frontal lobe can suddenly grow a parasitic twin that insults you all day and argues with you, you go ahead and believe that. And if you believe all of that doublethink, there is no doubt you will believe the rest of it. RF, EF, ELF, EMF, all of it has an effect on the human body and mind. This is not theory, this is fact. The content creating retards who intentionally attempt to deny this are merely doing it because their sponsors and handlers won't like it. ELF, for example, locks onto the human brain. Why? Because the human brain, as well as every single animal and insect, runs on ELF, as well as the Earth. We are influenced by the Schumann resonance. The Schumann resonance is the Earth's frequency, which used to be 7.83 hertz. But if you hijack this and use the Schumann resonance as a carrier wave for other frequencies, you are going to see problems. If human beings are being pounded by foreign RF, EF, ELF, and EMF all day, you are going to see more problems, and that's exactly what we are seeing. Problems. I'm not just talking about one group of people on this channel like some people like to make believe that I am. I'm talking about many. ELF and low ultrasound has been implemented and weaponized, a multi-pronged fork. And these frequencies can be transducing off anything that they can ride on. And I'm not just talking about people hearing voices on this channel. I'm talking about people with depression, with bipolar disorder, with sudden speech problems, with nervous system disorders, with pain, vibrations, and shock sensations, with sleep problems, narcolepsy, insomnia, with rage disorder, sleepwalking, and on and on and on. These mental issues and other things that were slipped into popular culture after World War II, illnesses that have been slipped into America's psyche since the 50s and 60s, they have evolved and changed ever since. And all of these symptoms are now exploding everywhere in record numbers. And the tards keep on tarding and parroting what they are told. And they'll tell you that this shit is natural when it doesn't exist. I'll give you a small example, like in France. People are not allergic to food in France. They don't get it. But people in America are allergic to peanuts. They're like, what is up with that? I don't know if it's the same way in France, but at least it used to be. Why are people allergic to food? You have people that try to say that they're allergic to their own sweat. They're not. It's upsetting something else that's already in their body. I've heard countless people say that people have become noticeably dumber over the past 10 years. Making stupid mistakes while driving, losing their temper, raging out. And it's true. Most of this is due to being filled with garbage that makes you ill, on and in you. It's also being blasted with mind-altering waves 24/7, which is shaving off IQ points and affecting people's behavior as well as their impulse control. And what did I just say? Impulse control. That's important. Let's take a person with a 90 IQ. Just below the average brain fat score, right? They were born with a 90 IQ. They tested with it as a kindergartner. They're 30 now. They still think they have a 90 IQ, but they don't. Let's be nice and say that the constant barrage of waves is shaving off 10 points off their already dismal brain score. Now they're rocking an 80 IQ, which is borderline retarded. That's not only going to affect decision-making and motor skills, it's going to affect impulse control. That's very important. Look at everything that we're seeing now. People raging, shitting in the streets, humping the ground. I mean, there are many, many video clips that I downloaded, but I realized that I couldn't even show on this platform because this is all new. 15 to 25 years ago, all of this behavior would be literally jaw-dropping. Now it's been normalized, and watching somebody piss or shit in the middle of a crowded public place is totally normal. But it wasn't before. And people have been using drugs and alcohol for a long time. It isn't the drugs and alcohol. It's battering down the IQ and impulse control. And when you drug or saturate an already beaten and manipulated brain with alcohol or drugs, we're talking about even lower impulse control. All of these people are not on drugs, and alcohol has been around since the beginning of time. So trying to blame it on these things is seriously one of the dimmest attempts at explaining something away that I've ever seen. An 80 IQ and below used to be considered retarded. Now Google is saying that the average IQ is between 85 and 115. Swear it, look it up. If that is our new reality, that we are in trouble. RF and ELF doesn't work like the movies or TV shows depicts it. For example, in Better Call Saul, the brother of Saul is supposed to have EHD, electrohypersensitivity disorder, and the doctor tests him by turning a phone on near him and seeing if he can tell if it's there, or tell that it's off. And other than a few small cases, this doesn't work like that 99.9% of the time. There is one guy out there who can feel it in his joints when he keys a radio. very few people like that. A case like that is the exception. Other people slowly become hypersensitized to RF, ELF, and EF over a period of time, a long time of being exposed to it. Or they've been polluted with agents making them sensitized to these waves. It would take a long while for their symptoms to go away. The symptoms just get worse when they are in a building or a room full of RF, ELF, EMF, or EF. People can have very real physical symptoms. This news clip is from 12 years ago, yet people are still out there trying to convince you that RF and EF has no effect on people.
You know those swirly light bulbs you see everywhere? But wait until you hear what some say it's doing to their bodies.
Imagine turning on a light bulb and only 20 minutes later, your face looks like this.
When I looked in the mirror and saw my face, I was absolutely horrified. I didn't exactly know what had caused it, or whether it could be controlled, or whether it was short-term or long-term. So I was just completely aghast.
And there are others.
I get dizzy.
Weeping pressure.
I can't focus well. I just feel all
It's
wrong.
going to make a lot of people sick.
They all say it was these, the curly compact fluorescent light bulbs, making them sick. And when they removed them,
Pain went away within a couple of days.
And my hands started healing immediately.
All their symptoms began going away when they got rid of them. This is from 12 years ago. So let's go back to this woman's skin real quick. So let's say that this woman's skin is somebody's brain, because these waves certainly do not stop at the skin. They affect everything. They go right through a human body. Someone who is born with an average IQ of 85 and is being governed or slowed down by these waves is now operating with a 70 or 75 IQ. This could mimic head injury symptoms. And what are some of the head injury symptoms out there? Behavioral changes, violent outbursts, rage disorders, low impulse control, and every single thing that we are seeing on the news and on the interwebs out there. So the next time that you watch like road rage videos or type in store trashed or fast food restaurant trashed, try to watch it with new eyes. Because look, this is all fact. If somebody out there is running on a low operating system, and then these sound waves, RF, ELF, EMF, and other things are bringing their IQ down and their impulse control down, you are going to have problems. Big problems. I mean, there are people out there that have plumb lost their minds, it would seem, but they have no control over their impulses at all, which they probably had low impulse control before, and now they're like, fuck it. This mimics head injury symptoms. I mean, it's craziness. I keep having these ascension type people show up and say, we need to raise our vibration. I've already released videos on this before. I don't need to get into it. But I find it very strange that they keep doing this. And I wrote, are you talking about ascension? And someone goes, yeah, we need to raise our frequency. Look, the Earth runs on ELF. The frequency used to be, before it was hijacked, 7.83 hertz. The human brain runs off very low frequencies. We run off ELF. Raising the frequency is unnatural. Completely and totally unnatural. What you are talking about is unnatural. What are you talking about? Are you talking about operating at a microwave frequency? Because that completely has to be man-made. The world in nature runs on ELF, and they have convinced you that low vibration is bad. Low vibration does not have to be bad. This was a way of the body and the earth communicating at a frequency. They are nature's radio waves, and you want to hijack those basically and put in some microwave bullshit. That's fucking nuts. But anyway, going back, I hope you've taken away something from this video. And again, if people don't put in the research or just the time, they are not going to understand this. But people do need to understand it because it's having a big effect on people. Look around, look up road rage, people tripping out. All this stuff is new and having a huge effect on the human population, as well as animals, beach whales, other animals out there. They're all being affected. And that's it for now. Look out for Charlie.
If you sit down and listen, science can explain all of this in a reasonable and rational manner.
But you told me that was impossible back in grade school.
Shut the fuck up! Relearn.
Look out for Charlie.